Hey there, we're Cody and Christina and we're building a box truck into the ultimate DIY expedition rig. Last week we installed our massive raised bed platform and completed the installation of our hardwood floors. This week we cut a lot of massive holes in our box for the installation of our Tern Overland doors and windows. Enjoy. So first, Tern Overland product that we're going to be installing is our cargo door. And it's going right behind me, right along this pillar here, and this is what we're going to be using to get our bikes in and out of here. Since our bed is raised, that's where the bikes are going. So it's tall enough, it's wide enough, and we got it painted tan to match the box. Oh yeah. So these doors as of right now do not come with their own template on how to cut them. After speaking with Tern, they have great customer service, we figured out where we need to line everything up and trace for our template, so let's do that now. Here's our janky piece of cardboard that we're going to be using for our first template. What we need to trace is, you got the top of the door here. This is what's going to be sitting over for us our box. So you got this center piece here that's about a 1/2 inch wide. This is what you want your cut hole size to be measured off of. So we took a pencil and cut it down. What we're going to be doing is lining it up under the door, and then we're just going to drag it all along the cardboard here. Christina's going to be doing the drawing because she's a lot more detail oriented than I am.
That's right.
For cutting the cardboard out, we found using a box cutter gave us the cleanest result versus using scissors. So here's our beautiful cardboard template of the cutout that we drew and cut. Well, Christina did, I didn't do anything. And then we transcribed the cardboard template onto this scrap piece of wood that we got. We're going to cut this piece of wood out. We're going to fit the door in the piece of wood, which tells us our templates are good, and we'll go from there. Loads of folks use cardboard as their sole template, but we simply can't trust cardboard on its own. So by cutting out the template into the piece of scrap wood, we would actually be able to fit the door into the cut hole and make sure it fits perfectly. If it does, we know our template is ready for transcribing onto the box. The first one didn't come out perfect, so the next morning we went at it again, cutting slower with the jigsaw to get the corners just right. And the second time worked out beautifully, and we're super stoked to report that the dogs also approved of our cut holes. Day 2 of the Tern Overland cargo door install. You guys saw this door that we got it to fit really well, but this piece of wood was actually bent. So this was never going to be our final template. So we picked up some cheap OSB. We're going to line our template up, trace this guy out onto the OSB, cut this one out. That is going to be the template that we're going to use to line it up, put it on the box, and freaking get cutting today. Just to reiterate, the first piece of scrap wood was bowed from moisture so it wouldn't lay flat on the truck, creating a poor template. So we bought some cheap OSB plywood and copied the same process as before until it was just right.
Open it and see what she does. Look. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
This time it really came out well, and after fitting the door, we decided it was time to trace the template onto the box. Surprisingly, duct tape actually held it up. So the next step is going to be to trace it on there, which is going to be really scary. And sorry for the wind noise, it's extremely windy yet again.
What?
Christina was telling me my smiley face was creepy, so I even added some teeth to it. Anyway, after a few passes with the Sharpie, our cut line was on the box and ready to go. We're ready to cut. I'm kind of nervous, but I also know that it's going to work out perfectly, but I'm still nervous.
Scary.
And here we go. Make sure to tape the bottom side of your jigsaw so it doesn't scratch up your vehicle. Going slow is your friend here. Let the jigsaw run at its own pace and really control the curve when cutting the corners. Keep the blade speed up full tilt as well. The faster the blade is moving, the cleaner and smoother the cut will be. The bottom section was super awkward to cut out, but we got it done. And just like the ceiling, we have steel studs that we need to cut through, so out comes the angle grinder. My least favorite tool, but it gets the job done. We had a little strand of steel still attached to the box, so after some wiggling, the piece was free.
Oh, still attached too. Oh, there's like a string up there.
We got our door. The hole is cut, as you guys can see. Came out really nice. We haven't test fitted anything yet.
Dude, that is such a good cut.
This was such a big moment for us and by far the biggest hole we've ever cut into a vehicle.
Oh,
After all the slow, tedious measuring and making sure we were doing everything right, we were proud to see it come together and it worked out beautifully. Make sure to file those sharp edges down, paint any exposed metal, and vacuum out the shavings. New day here on the cargo door install. First thing we're gonna do before we frame or anything else out is make our wall that's gonna be going under the bed and covering up the door. So we're gonna rip that up really quick, bring it on inside, see how it fits. For the wall, we were just using a 1/4" sheet of 4B Baltic birch plywood. We cut the height and width down to make sure it fit under our bed. So we got our wall panel out here. As y'all just saw, Christina traced out the opening. That is what we're going to jigsaw out really quickly, and then we're going to bring it in for a fitting. Tracing from the outside in will not give you the exact opening size needed to trim the door out. It will actually be a bit wider and taller at the end, but this gives a first step into cutting the door opening out. So we're finally starting to figure out our framing. Obviously, this is a very custom job depending on what kind of vehicle box you're putting it into. But basically, we had lots of strips of 1/2" and 3/4" Baltic birch plywood. And that is what we're going to be using to frame out our cargo door. The cargo door gets screwed in through the inside of the door jamb. So basically it's getting screwed in just inside of our wall. That's why we chose to use this rock solid plywood, because it'll screw perfectly into the layers and then it will glue on top of the box and it's going to be rock solid. First step is to put glue on the back side of the piece that's going to the box. There are actually some rivets protruding out the inside of the box, so I drilled out some holes in our framing so that the framing strips can slide right over them and additionally be held in place. We are using this Loctite heavy-duty adhesive as it's rated for wood to aluminum applications. Also make sure to clean your surface prior to adhering glue. On top of the base being glued in, we also pocket screwed it into the floor for extra strength. It was pretty cold out, so I was actually using the heat gun to warm the glue up so it was easier to distribute. And get ready to use a million clamps. We actually bought some more as we needed a bunch to make sure we had proper adherence to the box. These vertical pieces are glued against the aluminum skin and additionally pocket screwed into the base framing piece, which is also pocket screwed to the floor. We thought this was a simple yet effective way to frame everything out. We could have built our wall on top of the steel studs, but risked losing a few inches of width by doing that method. At this point, our box was starting to look like a porcupine with all these clamps. And here's a time lapse just showing all the framing pieces going up. Thought it was a fun way to show the process all at once. It is finally install day of the Tern Overland Arctic Tern cargo door. We're really excited. The glue is completely settled. Our frame around the door inside is really strong. There's a good amount of steps that we need to do today and just make sure it is dialed. First thing we're going to be doing is taking these little number 10 washers and placing them on the glue flange, which is right behind the face of the door here. Like so, taping it over just to secure it in place. What this is going to do is it's actually going to give you a little bit of a gap when you put your door up against your box or your van, and that is enough room for the glue to completely spread out evenly. Put a few of these washers around the door, tape them over, and we're actually going to bring the door over and start lining things up. So when we do the dry fit and we actually screw the door into our framing, we're going to be using, of course, the screws that are provided. They have the little Torx heads on there. The important thing is do not use the silicone little washers. You want to use these for the final install. And then the other important thing is you're going to need an 1/8 and a 3/16 drill bit. You start with the 1/8 to make your holes in the door frame, and then you're going to go up to a 3/16 to accommodate the screw size. Kind of an awkward tight spot because there's two of us. Christina's inside holding the door. I'm doing the drilling and looking outside. But we got our washers, we got the door lined up. It's being propped up to help us a little bit. But we have found where we're going to be doing our drill locations. So we're going to put 2 in the bottom and then 2 in the top for now. Check fitment and such. Make sure the door works very well. And once we're happy with that, we'll take everything out and get it ready for final install. Alrighty, so here's my 1/8 drill bit. I'm going to put my first 2 small holes in on the bottom here. So we're going to do here. The first hole was drilled with our 1/8 drill bit. Now we're going to the 3/16, which is the hole size for when we screw everything in. Just go nice and slow. Okay, and we're through, and I can see our wood frame below, so we know this one's good. Alrighty, so with our holes pre-drilled, got my impact gun here with the proper bit, and we're going to just do a light screw in, dry fit. Remember not to use those little silicone washers. Those are just saved for final install. And this is just going to allow us to look at the fitment of everything, see if we need to shim anything like that. So let's do it. The screws are in. We can actually see if the door is opening and closing properly. Oh yeah. Perfect. Holy guacamole. Now to back out the screws and remove the door, since we know that it operates and it fits extremely well.
Nice.
All right, so now that we have the door down and the actual opening masked off, I'm gonna take my 1/8 inch drill bit and drill the rest of our holes out down here.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get a Scotch-Brite pad, what we have here, and we're gonna start scraping along the edges of the flange, and that's just gonna help so that the glue can adhere to it.
All right, so it's time to freaking glue the door, and I'm freaking out, a little nervous. We know it's gonna work, but you guys know how it gets. So this is what we're using, this Loctite Power Grab Heavy Duty. It's good for aluminum to aluminum applications. We have an aluminum box. The inside of the frame's aluminum. This is what we were able to get. This is what we're gonna use. We're gonna run that 1/4 inch bead around the glue flange on the door. Chrissy was lightly wiping the bead onto the door flange so that it was sitting flatter and more dispersed for a better adherence to the box. As you can see, we taped off around the door. This way, once the glue dries, we could remove the tape and hopefully the excess glue. With the glue sitting nicely, we officially fired the screws in, making sure to use the silicone washers this time, as that will help water seal the screws holding your door into your framing. The door's in. It looks very messy. That is because we actually had a decent bit of a gap on the door. There's just a seam right here, and no matter what we did, we knew that gap was going to be there. This is just the height of where the door had to go. So that's why we had to use a ton of sealant to slightly bridge that gap. And it's all screwed in. We used 2 screws on the tops, 3 along the lengths. Tern recommends doing screws every 12 inches. That's why we did 3 here. It's just about 36 inches. And make sure to use those silicone washers when you do the final installation. That's just to, help keep the screws water sealed, since they are on this lower lip in here. There is weather sealing, but that's just to help prevent any moisture or water getting through those screws if it ever rains. And we're gonna let this sit till tomorrow, cut the excess off, remove the tape, and should be good to go. While the door was gluing into place, we also installed the rib nuts that would hold our wall up around the door. We are leaving the Baltic birch natural as it simply looks so good. Alright, with our small cargo door installed, done and dusted, it was time to tackle the install of our Tern Overland Wildlands main entry door. It will be the exact same process as the cargo door, just on a larger scale. So we started off with our cardboard template, cut that out, and fit it over the door. Once that fit was close enough, we went back to the OSB to trace and cut out another massive template from the wood. And again, fit the wood over the door until we were confident the template was a near perfect match to the door. Then we brought the OSB template to the box, taped it up, and got to tracing with the Sharpie onto the box. Well, friends, here is our 24.5 wide, right? 24.5 wide?
I believe so, yeah.
By 71 3/4 tall. We should really know this. Just kidding, we do. We measured. Anyway, this is the height of our door. This is the cut size. We have about 2 to 3 millimeters of play. Probably going to cut inside the lines. Tighter is better than too big. We could always shave it. But it's a really big cut. And we ran out of duct tape, so we had to use some blue painter's tape. It's not the prettiest. It's not going to be there forever. For our layout, the best spot for the door was right over our rear axle, which means we will not be able to hard mount stairs. We thought we would find it annoying always having to set our stairs up when we want to go in and out of the box, but after a year of this method, we have 0 complaints. We store the stairs in a cargo box below the chassis next to the door, and it's a quick 30-second process. When we are getting groceries or need to get in the box quickly, we can actually crawl up our tire into the box without setting up the stairs, which is really nice. There we go. Dude, we got a door. Now this is a big door, and it's heavy to carry around, so be careful if you are trying to lift it by yourself. So, now that we know that the door fits in the cutout really, really well, we're going to get working on the framing. We already had some pieces that we kind of just cut really quickly. We're not going to bore you guys with more cutting shots. But it's all 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood all the way down to the floor. We're doing the same thing we did with the cargo door. And this time we're actually going to be tying into the structural support of the box that's up here. So I think this thing's going to be really strong. Other thing worth mentioning is y'all could see all the rivets that are coming through the box. We actually bored out holes that line up with those rivets. So basically they're going to be sitting on top of them, which won't allow these to wiggle, which I think is going to help with keeping them secure. And here we go again. Make sure your surface is scuffed and wiped clean before gluing. The base and the top frame pieces are pocket screwed in, with the verticals screwed to the top and bottom frame pieces and eventually glued to the box. So it's the next day and we're finally ready to put our door in. Our frame glued past 24 hours. Now it's time to put our little number 10 washers around the glue flange on the door. All this is doing is it's giving you just enough of a gap for the glue to seep out once it's mounted on the, in our case, the box. So you just take your little washer, put some tape on it, And now that little washer's in there, and like I said, this is the glue flange that's under here. This is what's sitting on top of your box. Glue sits here and presses against your box. So by having this little washer here, it's creating that tiny, tiny gap. Important tool to have before you start screwing anything in is your drill bits. You're gonna need a 1/8 and a 3/16 drill bit. Start with the 1/8. This is to pre-drill your holes through the door jamb into your frame. So the 1/8, then enlarge it with the 3/16, and this will be perfect for the screws that come with your Tern Wildlands door. So here's the door seam where the two pieces come together on the frame. You can see the line down the center. We're going in right here, and this lines up perfectly with our frame. And I'm just gonna put one screw here, 3 on the bottom. I think it's gonna hold it really well. What did they say, every 12 inches? With how tall the door is, we actually needed another set of hands to hold the door open so we could pre-drill all the holes through the door flange and into our wood framing. Thank you, Christina's dad. And the door functioned exactly as it should, which meant our opening is dialed and we are ready for final install. We chose the Wildlands door as it has a separate locking screen, which means we could have our door open and with the screen locked, a safe way to get ventilation. There's a bug mesh screen as well as woven Kevlar that is supposedly bear-proof, something I hope we never have to test. Chrissy taped off around the door for when we were ready to apply the glue. We scuffed the glue flange so the adhesive had something to bite to, removed the number 10 washers, and this time used a Loctite Premium 3x strength adhesive, as honestly we like this a lot more than what we used on the cargo door. Again, thank you Christina's dad for holding the door up. We slid it into place, made sure our holes aligned, and got to fastening everything in. Make sure to use the silicone washers this time to help waterproof the screws. The door is in, as y'all can see, and it's officially in. Super stressful. Thank goodness Christina's dad was here to help us out, because it's hard with that door. As soon as the door swings open, the whole frame wants to drop down. So it really is a 3-person job. But now that it's glued and screwed in, and thankfully when we slid it in, all the screw holes lined up perfectly. So that was really good. And of course, you need to use those silicone washers right now. But I just closed up the box, made sure it was dark in here to check for any light leaks around the door. If there's any light leaks around the door, that meant that it wasn't fully sealed. And there was nothing, which means that we did it perfectly. It's a little windy, hence why we're doing a lot of voiceover, but wanted to explain the screw setup. Tern recommends doing a screw every roughly 12 inches. So we did 3 along the bottom. When we initially screwed it in, I wanted 1 in the center, so I decided to do 2 on each side. And then just the spacing going up, it worked out having 6 screws spaced anywhere from 11 to 13 inches all the way up along these sides. So we have 3 on the top and the bottom and 6 on the sides. And I think that it's going to be really nice and really solid. So today is a super exciting day. We are finally going to be installing our Tern Overland windows. Actually, that's a lie. We installed our first one yesterday. It was the first window we ever installed. It was the 550 by 1100. So it's quite big. We wanted to do that first window, so if we had any tips or things we figured out that could make it easier for y'all, we could put that into this video. So that's what this one's going to be about. We have our second window here. It is a 550 by 700, and that one's going to be going right over there at the foot of our bed. But truthfully, cutting's the easiest part. The preparation and learning how to install it's harder than the cut itself. So let's open it up and go through what's in there. All right, so now that it's unwrapped, there's really only 3 pieces to the window. So you have the internal blind screen mechanism. This is what, you know, has your screens built in, so you could slide it up, you get the bug screen, slide it down, and you get the blackout shade. And the cool thing is these are reversible. So let's say you want the bug screen up top and the shade from the bottom, you can do that as well. Now that we have the blind screen assembly off, the internal frame that goes inside your walls is actually lightly screwed into the window itself. So you're going to want to take your handy dandy screwdriver. There's rib nuts that are inside the window frame. So I think hand tightening and loosening is super important, because if you stripped out, bottomed out one of those in there, it'd be a pain having to replace it. So screwdriver only. And then the other important thing is when you undo the plastic around the window, look for this bag of screws. There's 2 things that you need to kind of customize with these windows. Tern offers 4 different frame thicknesses depending on how thick your wall is. And then on top of the frame thickness, there are 2 screw length options. Right now, the longer ones are in the frame, But if your window is on the shorter side of how thick your frame is, you're going to want to use those shorter screws because you do not want to bottom out the rivets that are inside of the window frame. The other important thing is these are the clips that the blind screen assembly clip onto. These go on top of the window. And it just sits right on top, like so. And here's the window. And it is time to get our template dialed. So as y'all saw with our doors, we're not comfortable tracing onto the box with a cardboard template. So we're going to be using more of that scrap OSB plywood. And we're going to trace it onto the wood, cut it out, and then we'll be able to drop the window in. If the window fits in very nicely, we know it's good to be put up on the side of the box. Plywood's really expensive right now, but this sheet of OSB was only $13, so that was pretty sweet. So the actual internal window frame. Here it is. You can see the clips that the blind screen assembly slides onto. You're going to take this, flip it around, and this line right here on the inside of the inner window frame is what the cut size is for your window. So we're going to be taking it, lining it up on our piece of wood, and then once we're all dialed, we're going to trace it and cut it out, and hopefully it works really well. It's honestly insane how much use we got out of these 2 sheets of OSB plywood. All of our door and window templates were literally cut out of these 2 sheets.
Is the other one going still?
That was a first.
Okay, do this side too. Do that one. Yeah.
First try. That's freaking sick. That's luck right there. Well, we're just about ready to cut. Chrissy's taping off the inside of the build here. Y'all can see the stud we're cutting's right there, just so we don't get metal shavings flying everywhere. Not only do we need the perfect window places between the left and right studs, but we also need the exact height so that the window gasket does not sit on a rivet, creating a water leak point for the window. Well, we're just about ready to get her done. You got yesterday's window up there, today's window up there. It's all masked off. I'm really excited to have the window by the bed in. It's gonna let in a lot of light. It's gonna be pretty sweet. The window is going in right at the same height as our bed, so we could wake up in the morning and look out at the view we have. The bottom of the window is some 10 feet off the ground, so we literally have a bird's eye view of our surroundings from bed, which is awesome. Chrissy was inside the box and handing me the window so I didn't have to carry it up the ladder, making it much easier for me, and the fitment was beautiful. And here we are working on our last window, a little guy that will be installed behind our induction cooktop so we can have ventilation while cooking. It's the exact same process as the other 2, but we still wanted to show you guys what it looked like. In the truck, we really wanted to have windows and doors on all sides. This way on warm days, no matter where a breeze was coming from, we could get some ventilation. The only side that does not have an opening is the front of the box, and truly we didn't want a window up there as it would look like a cyclops. The amount of light that's being let in now, with all the doors and windows in, is absolutely insane. Alright, so we're back on door duty. We are going to be wrapping this thing up today, hopefully. Super excited. We ran into some interesting issues that we didn't think we were going to have. One of them being just the depth of the door does not line up with our walls. So, nice catch. So, if we were running our shiplap all the way along our studs and our furring ships, there would have been a, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch gap actually between the shiplap and our door. So we came up with using a 1x3 common board, and we're going to frame all the way around the entire door. What this is going to do for us is it's going to eliminate the gap by the door so we don't see behind our ugly walls. And then our shiplap will sit nice and tidily right on top of this. The steps that we need to do to wrap up the door are put the striker plate covers on just to tidy everything up. Also, you can see that we actually notched out a space for the covers to sit in. So it's going to sit nice and tidily under there, always removable. And then our shiplap will wrap around it as well to cover up this line. It looks really clean, and then you see a little bit less of it as well. So with this off, we'll show you how to install that later. This little baggie right here, and these are the security brackets. So this little spacer plate, as you can see, already has holes lined up and some notches cut out. This actually sits on the plate that's already pre-installed on your door, and it just slides on like that. What that's doing is allowing us to bump our L out, and the part that has the slot is actually going to sit on that spacer with a provided little screw that comes with your kit. What this is doing is when you have this little L bracket attached to the spacer, attached to the door with that little bolt, the base of the L here is actually going to be screwed into our framing. And with this screwed into our framing, if anybody ever tries to pop the door out with the crowbar outward, This is just going to get tugged on our frame, which means that nobody can actually pull this door out of the wall. So we're going to have one on the top, one on the bottom, and then you just need to have some screws to actually screw it into your framing. For us, we actually need to use a little half-inch spacer. It's just going to be a little bit easier for the install for us. So we're actually going to screw this into our framing inside of the notch, and then the L is going to sit right on there and screw into this. So here's the little machine screw that's going to be holding the little spacer plate in. We're going to be going from the blank side in towards the door. And we have the machine screw head, lock washer, flat washer. Now we need to get some screws that are going in here. This is a 1/2 inch piece of ply. And then we have a 3/4 inch piece of wood here. So that's 1.25 inches. Alright, so now that we have the security brackets installed, it's time to put the plastic covers on. So as y'all can see on the outside of the cover here, there are 2 slots. If you look on your door, there are actually 2 screws already in your bracket that are doing nothing, just waiting for these little guys. So what I'm going to do is loosen up these screws, slide the cover over, and then the head of the screw is going to tighten down on top of the plastic, and that's what's going to hold this in place. And there you have it. The striker plate cover does a good job tidying up the space, and our door install will remain like this until next time.